Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
Oh, before I forget, sir, them conservation inspectors was here again. In there a long time they was. They said there would be a summons. And before they went, one of them said, "Do you know about the room?" Just that, sir. Just, did you know about the room?
This is episode 227, recorded October 23rd, 2024.
Gruesome Magazine.
Hello once again, I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host and I will tackle another classic, or not so classic, film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. With me this week is my co-host, Jeff Mohr. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm great. I wish I had something to say, but I don't. Oh,
it's a good way.
I voted today. Where am I? Right here.
Oh, good for you.
All right. Will this go out before people vote, or it's after people vote?
Well, it amazes me probably after 70s. It'll be the 30th. That'll be right before. No, it'll be the 7th. It'll be right after. Oh, well, anyway. Well, but
it's one or the other.
You know, I insist on calling it early voting, but the state of Iowa, in their wisdom, now calls it in-person absentee voting.
That sort of contradicts itself, doesn't it?
Kind of an oxymoron, but
in-person absentee.
And usually there's nobody there.
Nice.
And this time there was a pretty good line. It took us 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Well, congratulations. Also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan. He is a writer, director, special effects guru, published author, all-around nice guy, lover of cats. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing pretty well. I look in the mail. I got a beautifully rendered cat from one of our favorite commenters, Mikey Z. And I got a Halloween bat. It says Halloween, and it's even
bat-like.
Look, I'm in a Hammer horror movie with a realistic bat flying around. You can't tell it's not the real thing.
Cool. Mikey,
wow.
You should be doing these for commissions.
For real.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's like, makes my wife say, wow, maybe he's not just goofing around. He got fans. Send us stuff. Yeah.
Also joining us tonight is Chad Hunt, comic guards and coast of decades horror, the classic era, and the 80s. How you doing, sir?
I am very well, and I got me a Hulk ring.
A Hulk ring.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that. Let's get closer. There we go.
Pretty cool.
Ooh. If you punch bad guys with that, I'll bet it'll hurt.
Yeah, it leaves a mark like a phantom.
Yeah. And they'll be like, wow, we're looking for a really tiny person, a really small person with a hard hit.
Yeah, just don't kill them because they'll know it's you. Mm-hmm. All right. We are here tonight to review a TV movie from the UK called The Stone Tape. So this is going to be very interesting, very new, and are new for some of us. Maybe not everybody here, but we'll get into it. But before we do, I believe, Jeff, you have something to say about Play Now Media.
Yes. We are partnered with Play Now Media, which is a company that has around 24 streaming channels, and several of them carry the Decades of Horror. In particular, Wicked Horror TV carries Decades of Horror, the 70s and 80s, and Classic Era, I believe. Classic Era is on Classic Horror Movie Channel and Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, and we're actually interspersed on a bunch of their free channels too. But
interspersed.
We're just sticking with the main ones. And he has they have upgraded all of their apps. So if you've tried them out before, and you should try them out again because they're much improved. I think you will find them much improved.
Much improved is good.
Well, and a lot of the movies that we do end up on those streaming services.
They're on there already, right?
The one we did last time was iMonster, and it was the only place we could find it was on Wicked Horror TV and Classic Horror Movie Channel.
Absolutely. All right, so back to tonight's episode about the Stone Tape. We're going to give our first impressions of it. When did we first see this? Then we're going to have a discussion about the film, the cast, the crew, and impacts and probably a few surprises. And then we'll wrap up with some feedback. Jeff, we do have feedback, right?
We do.
Excellent.
We got a few.
All right, let's start off with our card. The Stone Tape, 1972, directed by Peter Sasdy, written by Nigel Kneale. The cast includes Michael Bryant, Jane Asher, Ian Cuthbertson. I had to slow down and read all that. Michael Bates, Reginald Marsh, Tom Chadbon, John Forsham, and Philip Truenard.
Those are some British names, boy.
Yeah, boy.
I felt uncomfortable
and I'm
saying
sure
the last
some
one.
of those syllables are silent, and our British
Yeah.
listeners will point that out.
I want deep,
in a lisp.
I want deep south for the pronunciation on that. All right. Production company is the British Broadcasting Corporation, also known as the BBC. Filming location is the Horsley Towers, East Horsley, Surrey, England, UK. Taskerlands. Filming dates started November 15th. What? 20th?
Well, these are the actual filming dates. Since it's a TV film, yeah.
Yes, December 4th, 1972. Released on December 25th, 1972. What an interesting day to release this movie. Synopsis: a research team from an electronics company moves into an old Victorian house to start work on finding a new recording medium. When the team member Jill Greeley witnesses a ghost, team director Peter Brock decides not only to analyze the apparition, which he believes is a psychic impression trapped in the stone wall, dubbed a stone tape, but also to exorcise it with terrifying results. Ooh. Yes, cue evil laughs and all that. All right, so this is a very interesting choice. Who picked this? Jeff did, of course. All right. I'm sure somebody suggested this. Why don't you start off sharing that if somebody did? And what was your first impression? When did you first see this?
Well, somebody did suggest this, and I'm looking that up as fast as I can.
I'm pretty sure this is one that Jerry Chandler has recommended.
Jerry did?
Okay. I actually think multiple people recommended it, and sometimes I just write down the first people that do it, and the ones that I have written down are Andy L. and Wes Diorio. But I'm almost certain that Jerry has mentioned it, and there's a couple other people too. I'm sure they'll chime in.
It feels about right that Jerry would recommend that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. When did you first see this thing, and what was your first impression? Does it hold up today?
Well, I first saw this when somebody brought it up, and I think it was a couple years ago, and I found it on YouTube, and it wasn't a very good resolution. But now it's on Shudder, and it's not bad. It's not bad. So
the resolution, right?
The resolution. No, I like the movie. I think the movie is good. There's some things that are a little irritating, mainly because it's a British television movie, and there's I think there's no music.
Every now and then, the little
keyboards
pop in.
Yeah.
That might be for the best, because a lot of times when they do music in these things, it sounds like grandma at the organ. It's like cheap soap opera stuff.
But I like this. I think it's well written. I mean, we've got good cred here with Peter Sasdy and Nigel Kneale, and I liked it. I think it's well written. I think we see things revealed about these characters as we go. And I'm telling you, this is maybe the third time I've watched this, and every time I get some goosebumps towards the end. So anyway, there's some definite science-y sounding mumbo jumbo in here.
There is.
Oh yeah.
But hey, it's a horror movie, so what the hell? Anyway, so I enjoyed it. I like this a lot. And in fact, if I could find a Blu-ray, I would buy it.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Bill Mulligan, sir. When did you first see this? What was your first impression? Does it live up today?
I've heard about this because I love Nigel Kneale's movies, and it's cool to see back then. Back then, where a writer could sell a movie where it's like, oh, it's a movie written by so-and-so. About the only person who has that sort of credit now is Stephen King. But Nigel Kneale's movies are always a cut above, and he did everything from Abominable Snowmen to Martians to this, because he's a master of convincingly credible claptrap. All right. The science is so wonky, but it is delivered with such sincerity. And it's like, well, shit, I don't know everything. So maybe these people really can determine how many times a ghost has appeared that they didn't even know existed in the last 100 years. Sure. We've got a machine for that. And that's cool. It's a really neat idea. This movie, the idea of this movie, the idea of that sounds could be imprinted on stone makes so much sense that it's actually become a legit paranormal theory.
And it's actually called
like
the Stone Tape. Yeah, it's adopted.
Now, I don't believe that this was the first time it was ever proposed. And it's an interesting idea. Energy is not created or destroyed. So if one makes sounds, you could plausibly say that the sound you make is absorbed into the wood and the stones, and it's still there vibrating through the atoms for eternity. And maybe through some amazing thing and they come back together and go out. I don't think that's at all true, but you know what? It sounds like a plausible way to explain things that otherwise don't make sense. And it may well be true. What do I know? But I like it. And you know, it's got cool ideas, but they also take the care to make a story and have some characters that we care about. Now, for modern audiences, not an old fart like me, raised on movies that start with an earthquake and then ramp it up from there, this may be too much of a slow burn for your average, kid there. Yes, the special effects are early 1970s Doctor Who worthy, which is to say not that great. But if that's what you're in it for, just put on The Day After Tomorrow and watch buildings fall down or something. If you want a nice little thing with ideas. Oh, and by the way, the reason they released it on Christmas is apparently this is a really cool English tradition to tell ghost stories on Christmas.
Oh,
Dr. Who still does it, right?
So yeah, that's
Dickens' A Christmas Tale probably started that, or
something to look forward to at Christmas is gather around the telly and watch some sort of scary thing. And you got to give them credit. I mean, when they did this, they respected the intelligence of the audience. If Netflix does this, I don't think we're going to have a movie that everyone's going to be like, that was an intriguing idea. I wonder if it's plausible. It's just, it's going to be what it's going to be. But yeah, I'll give it full credit. It's old fashioned. It has some political incorrectness in there. I mean, these guys are kind of jerks. So, if you get easily offended by people doing really bad stereotypes of, say, I don't know, Asians or anyone for that matter. But I do get the feeling as I'm watching this. One, I'm cringing a little bit, but at the same time, I'm getting the feeling this is not being portrayed as, oh, these guys are so funny. It's kind of like, yeah, they're kind of jerks, So there's a bit of disapproval there, and I think the performances are cool. And you see a lot of British actors that you may not know exactly where you saw them before, but you have seen them. And they bring their A game. I think it's really well done. I liked it. I'm glad you picked it, because otherwise I don't know that I would have sought this out on my own.
Nice. So you hadn't seen it before? That's awesome.
No, I had not.
Okay. Chad Hunt, sir, when did you first see this? What was your first impression? Does it hold up today?
This is the first time I've seen it. First time I've ever heard of it is now. Even though I've heard of the stone tape theory. In ghost hunting and everything, but I really like these old BBC. I like the aesthetic of them because they come across as one of the old soap operas type deal. Just the way they look and sound and everything. And I think Nigel Kneale. I'm a big Quatermass fan, so I was glad to see him writing this. He was way ahead of his time as far as ideas and concepts, I think, were concerned. He didn't have any science to back any of this stuff up, but it was a cool idea and a cool concept. And I think with it being a BBC TV show, it was held back a little by budgetary reasons. I think it could be so much better if there was a decent budget behind some of these ideas and they were fully fleshed out and able to see and come to life a little bit better. Another thing that kind of holds it back a little bit is the audio. When it's loud, it is loud, boy. And these guys did a lot of screaming in this movie. And
there's a lot of screaming in it. Yeah.
A lot of yelling and screaming and stuff like that, to where it was almost irritating in a way. But yeah, I really dug this film, and you know, it was a cool, like I said, a cool idea, cool concept. The actors were good. Yeah, and there was a lot of if misogyny's your game, this movie's for you.
There's a little bit of that.
There's a little bit of that here, and other things that were of its time, you know. And we can't really fault it for making a movie of its time. So it's just that today's audience might look at it and cringe a little bit. But yeah, I dug this a lot, liked it. And, you know, it's a Nigel Kneale joint, you know, that's all I can say.
Yeah, it even includes a giant, meaning that one of the actors is at least a foot taller than everybody else on the set.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. So here's the thing. I had never heard of this. I was like, what are we picking? What is this? And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to watch? And I feel like I've been Mandela'd. I'm like, this thing never existed before you guys told me about this. This isn't real. I just like, how did I never know about it? How did I never watch it? I love this thing. I absolutely fell in love with it. I was like skeptical going in, but I don't find, I mean, yes, the special effects are minimal, but at the same time, it fits. It suits the story because the story is based on perception of it. You know, some people are receptors, and like the one guy doesn't see anything at all.
So cool.
But he's the, what is it? He's the he's your control. So you know, there is some science in it. It's just they had in a lot of goofy shit, but at the same time, it's a really interesting way to explore, you know, the idea of hauntings without going full on, oh, it's a haunting kind of thing. You know, they, even though they do, they kind of they approach it in a really different way, kind of like the Legend of Hell House and some of the Haunting of Hill House. There's a Legend of Hell House and the Haunting of Hill House. Those, you know, because they have a scientist leading the way, wanting to prove it, right? This guy does, but not really want to prove that it's a ghost. He just wants to prove that you can record things in these bricks, and it causes ghosts. So anyway, that's saying way too much about this, but I love the performances. I love the aesthetics. I love the fact that it felt kind of like a play, kind of like somebody mentioned, like early soap operas, really dark, shadowy kind of feel to the, you know, the film quality. And I dug it. I thought it was totally suiting. This has instantly become like one of my favorites. I absolutely have been won over by this movie. And I really can't believe that I still believe you guys have Mandela'd me. But this movie is ripe to be reinterpreted today.
Absolutely.
And with the same subtle storytelling. It can't go like somebody was saying about, you know, wanting fast-paced stuff. You got to keep the pacing because the pacing is kind of important for building the discovery of what's going on. If you push it too hard, then the discoveries don't matter as much, and the discoveries, their learning of it is as fascinating as what's going on. You know, how they go back to this makeshift computer thing, which is, I don't know, I just type stuff in there and all of a sudden it comes out a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's probably the way it was, but it's fascinating in this world, this Mandela world that we're being presented here. I absolutely love everything about it. I love the way they displayed the ghost. I love the fact that it was so audible, you know, because it was so no background of the music. Mm-hmm. When you hear the footsteps and you hear the screams of the ghost, and they have this echoey quality like most ghosts do, right? It just has such a strong impact. I'm going to say this one more time and shut up. I love this movie.
All right.
It may be one I'm trying to figure out where I put it in the 70s films. It's in my top 10 somewhere. I don't know where it goes.
That's awesome. That it's so cool that a movie you hadn't even known existed now is one of your favorites. It gives you hope. See, that's why we still do this podcast. With the hope that you're going to find something like that.
Yeah, it sucked me in 100%. I was totally involved. I did get creeped out. Scared might be pushing a little bit far, but there are points in this where it is actually goose pimply. It's scary, especially toward the end. Even though the effects kind of, if you look too hard at it, it might rob a little bit of it. But at the same time, it feels like her perception of what's happening. So I didn't mind it. And the whole thing about, the when you start seeing all the things toward the end, I was downright like, holy shit mode. I was really in. I'd love to see like a James Wan tackle this, or or somebody, of our modern masters kind of take this and run with it in a very, in a totally different way. But the core concept is there. And plus there's years of theory piled on top of it now based on this that, you can incorporate in and add to the story. So, yeah.
You could argue that certain elements of this are sort of paid homage to in Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes.
And he was a fan. He was a fan of Nigel Kneale. Apparently Nigel Kneale wasn't as big a fan in return, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
I heard that.
All right. So let's I think that's it for that part. So let's dig into things.
I guess this doesn't even have taglines or anything.
Yeah, we don't have taglines. We don't have posters.
Dang it.
Poor Chad.
Oh, look at the disappointment on his face. I'm going to cry.
But I think, we could talk about Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly a little bit. That would.
If you do, I'll use my whole.
Oh wow!
Yeah, while you were last episode, we had both a letter. There was two reasons that we talked about that movie, and I can't remember why. One was a letter from Eleanor saying how much she loved it, and there was something else. There was some other reason it came up. I think there was somebody. I don't know. Anyway.
Probably talking about how it's the worst movie ever made.
Oh, dear God. We don't have any posters in our screenshots here for this, but there are some really interesting blue DVD covers. There's one for the BBC, Nigel Kneale's The Stone Tape, that's very illustrative, graphic. Chad, you would probably dig that. And then, of course, there's the one that you see on IMDb, which has the grainy feel to it of our lead actress in the background with stone tape kind of slapped on top of it. But let's jump into the director, who is a director that we've covered already here on the podcast. We haven't done Taste of Blood yet. Yeah. But we've done Countess Dracula. We've done Countess Dracula, right?
Yes.
And Hands of the Ripper.
And
definitely done
for sure.
Yeah.
So this is later Hammer. And the budgets are lower and everything, but they're trying some kind of interesting ideas. And he was fine. Taste the Blood of Dracula is not one of my favorite Dracula movies. It doesn't have Peter Cushing. But it's got Christopher Lee. And there's some cool stuff that happens in it. I love Countess Dracula, mostly for the cast. And Hands of the Ripper was one of those ones that I really hadn't paid much attention till we did it here on the podcast, and I was quite impressed with it. So he's got a good touch, and I think he did a lot with this on what was obviously no budget. Yeah. And apparently they shot this in 5 days. If what you read out was the sum total of the days they were shooting, that's pretty impressive for a dialogue heavy movie. But you're working with professionals. You got these British folks, they do a lot of theater, they learn their lines. You don't have to keep doing take 13 because the actor forgot their lines and everything. So
yeah, it has that theatrical feel to it. It feels like a play.
Yeah.
which gives it some strength, some gravitas, I think.
Yeah.
But the director, of course, also did this weird movie called Doom Watch. Maybe we'll cover that someday.
Oh
maybe
yeah,
not.
Doom Watch.
Nothing But the Night is another one he did. Is Sharon's Baby a horror film, or is that just a regular? Oh no, that's a horror film. That's the Joan Collins movie. It's also known as a different title. I don't know it as Sharon's Baby.
Yeah, I've heard of. I know she made a movie, a horror movie, but I don't remember that title. It was right on the tip of my brain too. Now it's gone. You know, Doc, one of the things about this that may have kind of kept it off your radar, I think it's a miracle that we even have the chance to watch it, because stuff from that time was not treated with a great deal of respect. You know, they lost a whole bunch of seasons of Doctor Who. The Peter Cushing Sherlock Holmes thing they thought was lost forever, and I think they found some, maybe most of the episodes, but not all of them. And Wicker Man, they thought Wicker Man was like dumped into a pothole somewhere in Britain. I mean, these things were just not really treated with anything like kid gloves. So it could have been lost. A lot of Nigel Kneale's radio stuff is gone forever. Nobody recorded it. So
and the copy I watched, which I watched the one that was on YouTube, but it was recently uploaded like 6 months ago as we recorded, and it was pretty sharp. It was pretty sharp quality given the nature of it.
Here's just quickly. Here's one of them. I think. I've been talking about that, and I keep trying to get another one, but it's not liking me.
So what I'm really curious about from you guys, what do you think of how the director handled the material and shot it? Because there are some wacky shots in this. Mm-hmm. There are a few very
for a TV show.
That was shot in 5 days.
One that stood out to me was when she's leaving the room and the camera sort of is up high and sort of swings down.
Yes.
He's being attacked by the ghost or whatever. That was a good shot. That made my hair stand up on end.
Yep.
On the back of my hand. And it was they had to do a lot of upward shots because of that tall guy.
They had no choice. Oh my God, he was so big. He was a giant.
Yeah,
like 7 foot taller than I don't know.
But there were some interesting shots in there for a TV show.
There was one shot I was really impressed with, which was basically a transition shot showing night to day, and it was the guy, our grumpy lead, passes out in the room. And we see the window, and then as the sun rises, you just see the sun come through the window and light things up. It looked very like a theater trick, which it probably was. It was probably taking from a theater trick to do the same thing, but it really translated well for this.
Well, it's weird that there are no credits for cinematography or camera operators on this. At least not in IMDb, and I don't recall if there was on the
I
film
guess the
itself.
rules are different for TV. Yeah, the one thing that does stand out, and this comes with the territory. If you're watching a TV movie, there are those sort of weird fade to blacks, and my wife was like, "Why did they keep doing that?" It's like, well, this is where the commercial for spotted dick or aluminum foil would be put in there, because you got to sell stuff. But that's true for Salem's Lot too. They just fade to black and then black to screen again, and just wow.
You can see it when you like binge stuff too, like that was originally on network, and then you binge it, and it fades in and fades back, or it fades back out, or fades out and fades back in. I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me, but to me, it didn't distract at all. I thought it was all handled pretty well.
Yeah.
That's another DVD.
There you go. That's the one with here's the artwork, Chad. I thought you would like.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It sort of has the same feel as the end credits, how the end credits look, but it was a little more modernized.
Yeah.
It just makes me so happy to see they're selling it as the writer. Nigel Kneale's The Stone Tapes. That's what you need to know. This is that guy who writes all that cool stuff. He wrote this one too. Yeah. Boy, those days are gone.
Yeah, but for the most part, they are definitely. I was going with Nigel Kneale stuff here. So there's our guy.
He's a
very
happy
grumpy
fellow.
looking man at the top. Yeah.
Sour.
Now, before, of course, Quatermass. I didn't know he did the Abominable Snowman. That's fun. Now, what was involvement with Halloween 3? Because he's not credited, but yet he's involved.
He wrote a treatment, and I don't know how much of it survived to the end. I mean, it sure does feel like a Nigel Kneale idea, you know, chips of Stonehenge being put into masks and causing heads to explode. Boy, that's right out of the playbook. So.
It is. Yeah.
But whatever they kept, it wasn't enough for him to keep his name on there, and he was not happy. Is
that the beef between him and Carpenter, or was it something else?
Carpenter is a big Quatermass fan.
Yeah.
So it probably I don't think Carpenter directed 3. I think Tommy Lee Wallace did.
Right.
Yes.
He produced it. So,
that might have had.
If you believe the IMDb, it says he had his name removed from the film after the script was heavily changed by Tommy Lee Wallace.
Okay.
And they're not the only ones. I mean, I think he had some beefs with the BBC, and he definitely had a beef with. No, I'm thinking of the different guy, Watley, the one who did To the Devil a Daughter. You know, these guys, they were successful writers, and they Hollywood comes beckoning, and we're going to turn your book into a movie because we love it so much. And then immediately they start dicking around with it and it's like, well, if you loved it so much, why did you change the ending, the middle, and the beginning, and do all these other things? So I can understand where he would get a little unhappy.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, just want to say that if there's anyone out there in Hollywood who's looking for an easily pullable book, you can do whatever the bleep you want. As long as your check clears, it's not going to ruin the book at all. This book is going to be on my shelf unchanged, every page, lovingly written as I wrote it. And you can do whatever you want. Just, again, check's got to clear. And I won't even say any bad things about it.
Out loud.
Putting that out there.
So I'm sure this will offend some people, but he says, a quote from Nigel Kneale, that Doctor Who sounded like a terrible idea, and I still think it was. The fact that it lasted a long time and has a steady audience doesn't mean much.
Really? Okay.
He is grumpy.
He is a grumpy
guy. He is.
But
he's a curmudgeon.
And he wrote a lot of stuff that didn't get made into movies. So there's potentially a lot of cool things out there. And Doc, I'm totally with you. Why has this not been remade? Why the hell has Quatermass and the Pit not been remade? That's a brilliant movie.
Just Quatermass should be a series.
The only problem is the special effects are really dodgy because it's a big idea and they did not have the means back then to do it right. But now they do. It's still a great idea. Yeah. Set it in America, cast Tom Cruise, do whatever you have to do. But this is a really solid premise.
Yeah, no, not that last part.
We also did a film that's not on here, is the Witch, is also known as The Devil's Own, the Joan Fontaine movie.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, the Quatermass. Now, I'm going to ask a question that's going to give me dings. Because I think I know the answer, but I just want to be sure I don't want to just spell it out and be wrong. But he wrote the Quatermass TV show back in the day, and then all the movies. Yes. He is the creator of Quatermass, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just want to.
And those also, the original BBC versions of those are sort of available but might be missing. I think the original Quatermass Experiment is only partially saved, which is a real tragedy.
Actually, the original.
Yeah.
I know the Quatermass in the Pit you can get on a it's a poor resolution, but it's Blu-ray. It's surprisingly good. Anyway.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
But the writing, I will just double down, is exquisite on this. I mean, the dialogue. I mean, there's some really strange conversations that trying to figure out how they, involve the story itself. But at the same time, it gives the characters some depth. So I, in the end, appreciated it. But yeah, the dialogue is delicious in this.
Well, it's written. I'm so tired of stupid people in movies. It's cool to see a movie where smart people are saying smart things, even if they're wrong and being led to their doom. They're intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like, the fact that you're watching this and not being talked down to and spoon-fed everything, you're kind of solving them. It's like you're one of this gang of really smart, capable people who are trying to solve a mystery. It's cool. It's a good feeling.
I believe he wrote the screenplay for the 1984 British.
Yes,
BBC
and that was the one that really put Peter Cushing on the map.
Yeah,
too.
yep.
And it was quite controversial at the time.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I thought it was heart-wrenching. I mean, the Cushing is so good. You're right about that. I love the way they do this story because you said early on, Bill, that they expect you to be intelligent. And they don't spell things out for you, but you have to pick things up as you go, kind of in terms of relationships. And so this character, and what was his name? Peter Brock.
Peter Brock.
You start off feeling like, he's kind of a jerk. He's sort of a ramrod, he's pushing to get everything done. But then I'm wondering, so what's his relationship with Jill, Jane Asher's character? Because he seems like he's kind of coming onto her and inviting her to his, you can stay with me. And he sort of honeys her up a little bit, but then he gets a phone call and he's talking to somebody named Christine, and his voice completely changes, and he's talking to her about his kids. And
a horse.
Well, wait a minute, this guy's married. And then, so that keeps going on. And then later in the thing, if you watch, there's just a real quick shot where they barge in on him, and his assistant or secretary, whatever she is standing in the background in like shorty pajamas or a robe or something. So he's like just grabbing anything he can get a hold of.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that gave that away too was early on when he was on the phone to his wife and Jill is standing there.
Yes.
And he tells her, go get me some coffee. And then later when the assistant was sitting there, he goes, go get me some coffee. And Jill kind of looks at the assistant like, oh, now you're sleeping with him,
Yeah.
So
and then our giant did recognize it though. When he was in the room, he was like,
the giant knows it. The
giant's wise.
His name is Roy Collinson. I don't know exactly what his title was in this whole workplace, but he knew Peter Brock for his for what he really was. And then towards the end, he really like when he finally, like, nobody will listen to her at first. You just saw a ghost. You had a nightmare, and then at the end, there's in the middle part, he gets excited about it, but not for her, because he thinks he's going to make a big name for himself in a killing by inventing this new recording method with stone, I guess, or whatever, or discovering this. And then when it comes down to a point where it goes away, then he's like, he is so dismissive of her. It's go home. You need some time off. You're crazy. You're insane. You need a month off. Take 2 months off. Talk about gaslighting.
He does it to Roy as well, our giant.
Yes.
But that's another smart thing too, because the truth is, if it's an interesting thought. The supernatural is supernatural to us because either it doesn't exist or it does exist, but we don't understand it. Once we understand it, it ceases to be supernatural. It just becomes another part of the real world, like electromagnetic waves that you're not aware of until you have a way of measuring them, and then it becomes useful. So yeah, if what we see as poltergeists and all these other things, these paranormal things, suddenly become things that we can measure, they're no longer paranormal, they're just normal. And yeah, they'd be great. I mean, think of all the, if these ghosts and manifestations and psychic things, if they were real, they're going to revolutionize. Whoever's the first one to grab that and patent it, it's going to make a fortune.
Well, and their mission is to come up with a new recording medium. Tape's obsolete. It's gone. We need to come up with something. We need to beat the Japanese. And then he's just as, I mean, he is so fanatic about it. He's beating the hell out of everybody there, making them stay long hours, and they're going crazy from hearing these screams and all these noises he's putting out from the speaker over and over again, and flashing lights. He's trying everything, and they're staying late and everything. And then finally he just kind of goes, when she quits hearing it, at that point he's done. Either that, or because his boss has turned some space over to the guy with the
washing machine,
with the intelligent washing machine.
Which was great. Yeah. I did like that the way they were trying to replicate the vibrations to trigger it. And to me, what was really interesting is that each vibration had a different impact on different people that were in the room.
Yeah.
And one guy lost his shit toward the end on one of them. But I really appreciate that, because it really reinforced the idea that they presented to us early on about that different people were more perceptive to it than others. The one guy that she worked with didn't see anything, and of course she saw everything. And then everybody else is in between. And that just grounded it so much for me, that made it even, took what was maybe goofy, made it plausible.
That's another thing that's so smart. There's always that cliche where they're going into the haunted house and there's the one person, usually the spooky goth girl, who is more sensitive to everything. But the truth is, this makes perfect sense, because you look at something that we take for granted, like color. Color only exists if there is something there that can perceive it. And we have no idea if what you see as green is the same thing that I see when I look at green. We both see something, we both call it green, but for all I know, you see what I call red. That's your version of green. We don't know. And of course, some people can't see colors at all. And some animals can see colors on spectrums that we don't know, we can't see. I don't know what color they are because I can't see them. By definition, they don't exist in my perception, but they do exist for some other thing. That's a really cool premise. Yep. That's a really neat idea, that whatever this mysterious energy or something beyond energy is, some people are going to be more perceptive to it than others. This is just a really cool story with ideas in it. Good ideas, clever ideas, and he puts the characters in there, and then it works. This is, the more I think about this, the more I like it. The more I want to actually go watch it again.
And that's one of his trademarks, is mixing science fiction and supernatural. Or having things that look supernatural that have a scientific explanation, possibly.
And as a programmer in real life, having her react to like new information and going back to the computer and starting over again with the new information, be it dates, or it's not 18 something, it's 17 something, or hey, we have somebody that doesn't see anything, and they start putting them as a control. That felt so real to me, even though it was oddly exercised. But it was like, really, to me, it really again accented what they were trying to tell us. It supported the nature of them discovering things, and it was that discovery that I really enjoyed. I was waiting for a twist, but there kind of is, but not really. They may have pushed a little too far with going back to the 1700s, but at the same time, I kind of dug it. It gave it a little bit more urgency.
They went back 1,000 years.
Did they go back further than that?
Yeah. It was back to Saxony. They said
there you go,
1,000 years, and that's where the creatures kind of were.
The two red balls and
that the red balls. But that's the other thing. A lot of times these movies are kind of driven by people doing stupid things, which is annoying. And here, if you were to find something new, some concept, something that we don't even know about, it's not matter, it's not energy, it's something else. There's a reasonably good chance you're going to seriously cause harm, because you don't know what it is. When people first discovered radioactivity, they thought it was like candy. They thought, hey, this glows in the dark. Glowing is great. Let's bring sick people in here and expose them to radium. See what happens. And turn their bones into glass. All right. Well, you live and learn. So it's cool to have a premise where bad things can happen, the plot gets moved forward, but it doesn't require that our characters are morons.
But we do get one. We bring that and I apologies, but they bring the local in, right? The one that had, as a kid, had gone in there.
Local.
But at the same, well, that's what I was trying to avoid. But yes, when he does go in there, though, it brings their science a little bit down to earth because of him. You know, he's probably somebody that most audience members can relate to more so than the science guys, right? And his reaction to it was one of the highlights. That scene with him,
and fueled by his experiences as a kid.
Yeah, the fear was. I felt the fear. I felt his fear in that scene, and the actor did a great job too. And that helped the rest of the film as well.
His name was Michael Graham Cox. I don't think I had him on the list, but
right, because I think without that scene, I think the ending could have easily fallen very flat. Because the ending pushes the limits.
They set up these things again. Back to the writing, they set up this thing where they go and talk to the vicar, and he sort of remembers stuff, but he can't find it. And they're just like, oh well, we just thought we'd take a shot, and they leave. Well, then go another third of the way through the movie, and he just shows back up again. Oh, I've been researching this, and look what I found. And gives them more information. Whereas it just I just thought it was cool that they completed that circle.
Yes.
He came back and provided information.
Yeah, because we think, because Roy had information too, which he may or may not have lifted off this guy, but he had the more recent case of exorcism as opposed to the one way back when.
Well, I thought it was cool too when at the very end when she's going up the stairs, everybody else is supposedly left, and she's going up the stairs, and when she all of a sudden now what she's seeing is fresh stonework, and the railing is fresh, and there's light at the top of the stairs, whereas before it didn't go anywhere. All those things added, I think, minor things, but added a little frisson
that only she would have been able to see because she was the one that was most receptive.
You bring up the vicar. I like how some of these little minor characters are just kind of delightful. I love the waitress who's like, I was a good time girl back in the war. I shagged so many Yankee soldiers. I was practically a second front, like, okay, she seems fun.
and some of the guys that were, with our team, our scientific team, shined as well. I really like the guy that worked with our lead actress, the Jill Greeley character. You know what it kind of reminds me of? I don't know. I don't know if this was any influence at all, but it kind of reminds me of the original Thing from Another World, where the scientists who are kind of the antagonist, at least one of them, the main one is the main antagonist in the movie, other than the monster itself, are well drawn, interesting characters, intelligent, having conversations and everything, and each one gets his own little bit. I like that. And maybe it's the science teacher in me, but I like seeing scientists portrayed as something other than just lunatics that are trying to make giant scorpions to increase the food supply or whatever dumbass thing they did.
There were some well-developed
like that, but it's nice to see it change.
I was going to say there were some well-developed characters, but there was a handful of them that were just like frat boys making stupid jokes.
Oh yeah, there was a few. The one that put the teeth in his mouth. Yeah.
But I will say, having worked with science people, that is not as far from reality as you might think. That these it's a kind of a work hard, play hard environment.
Sure,
there's a lot of stress and thinking going on, and when they let loose, So that was an interesting time in my life when I was working as a grad student and working as a lab tech. Scientists are not the dodgy guys.
The geek will inherit the earth, right?
Yeah. They've seen some stuff. They've done some stuff.
All right, let's jump into our lead actress. We've mentioned her a few times. Jane Asher.
Look at her on the bottom. Look at that little cute little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's she's a little girl in X the Unknown.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
there's some stuff about her that you guys brought up in the pre-show that I did not realize, but then we also have some other shots here from a certain.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mask of the Red Death, Roger Corman's probably best Poe film, and she was just absolutely wonderful as the innocent little ingenue that Vincent Price is putting the lecherous moves on and trying to corrupt. Great film, and she was wonderful in it.
Yeah, and she's still active today. So
yeah, and what we were talking about is she was famously Paul McCartney's girlfriend from like 63 to 67, and I think she was only 17 when he met her, and I think by the time she was 18, he was living in her parents' house. And then at some point he bought a place and she lived with him for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that was done by like 67.
She's excellent. She is absolutely excellent.
Very good.
Yeah, very good.
And very believable as the computer scientist typing away and
I liked how Peter Brock told her to get over there and start building your heuristics. It's like
heuristics.
She just magically is going to come up with this program to record all this stuff and see it.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It worked for me. Worked for me. Everything just output into long sheets of paper.
Yeah, back then, sure. She was good. Yeah.
Michael Bryant is our lead. No, there's this. And other than it looked like he was wearing a wig halfway through the movie, he's excellent in this.
Yeah.
he
was
also
one of their friends in Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly that they bring in to do in. Anyway.
2 thumbs up, says Chad. Or
take it away.
With 2 fingers, anyway. I don't know. And he's somewhere in Torture Garden too, which I have yet to see actually.
Yeah, so he worked in National Theater for 25 years, so that gives you his background in it. I would say that it's very well on display here. He won the Laurence Olivier Theater Award in '88 for his performance in King Lear. Again in '90 as a supporting role in the Voici Inheritance and Racing Demon. And then again, I won't continue going through it, but he won quite a bit of awards. And he was considered for multiple different roles. I don't think he ended up with any of them for Life Force. And that makes sense.
Oh, he would have been perfect in Life Force. He would have fit right in.
Yeah.
This is a good role. It's an interesting character. I mean, it's not always a likable character, but you can see why he has these people who follow him. He's got that alpha kind of thing going. He's a good talker. He picks the right people to be around him and expects hard work from them and all. And when things are going well, I'll bet he's an absolute delight. When things are not going so well, then you see the other side.
Yeah, and we see that side.
He was in a lot of big British productions. I mean, A Night to Remember.
Oh, I love that one.
I saw another one. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Nicholas and Alexandra.
Okay, yeah, these are some.
And on up.
Oh, and he's in The Ruling Class, which is one we're going to have to do sometime because it keeps coming up. It's not exactly
Gandhi.
horror, but kind of. Oh, Gandhi, wow.
Riley, Ace of Spies. That was a big public television series back in the day, 1983. From a book.
And of course, we have our giant, Ian Cuthbertson. I feel like I call it.
And then they even put him. Is he standing on stairs? He's just that much taller.
No, he's that much. There are many scenes where he is off to the left or right, and he is just towering above everybody.
Everybody else is standing on stairs.
Amazing.
Get him in the shot.
Oh my god, so amazing. But it gives him this interest, because he's not an authoritative figure in regards to our lead, the Michael Bryant character. but yet he has authority to him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just not in this situation, right?
He's got gravitas, and it was bothering me where I had seen him before, and then I remembered he plays Louis Leakey in Gorillas in the Mist.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's not a huge role, but he's giving a speech, and the Sigourney Weaver character sees this, and she's so inspired that she wants to go out and live with the gorillas. And you can see because he really, I doubt that Louis Leakey was as good at being Louis Leakey as this guy was. But his performance is mesmerizing. It's brief, but it's really good. I really enjoyed that.
It's better than being Leaky Lewis.
Yeah, well,
jeez.
You think maybe he heard that joke growing up a few times?
Oh my God!
That's why he became an anthropologist. I'm going to go out in the desert where nobody's going to make fun of me.
Gorillas don't make fun of my leagues.
Yeah, they have him in here as just over 6 feet tall, and I would say it might be close to 7 guys.
They might have all been. There might have been a lot of short people in the cast.
Well, maybe
6'4" in IMDb.
Okay, it's definitely 6'4".
So he and Christopher Lee would have had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I die. Almost. I thought he was fantastic. Because he plays. He's the one that supports our lead actress.
Yeah.
When things go sour and you feel it. He even says he admires her from afar, which is an interesting comment.
An intermediary between the two.
Yeah. And I like it when he gets involved. Sorry, Chad. No, but I like when he gets involved with the experiment when somebody refuses to go in there, so he steps in, and he wants to leave so bad. I just like that aspect of the character. It's an interesting quirk for that character to have during that scene because it's not necessary for the scene, but yet it gives that character so much depth in that scene. Because it doesn't, it never plays out, but yet at the same time, you feel like he doesn't want to be there. Not sure where that goes, but
but you feel like he's trying to get Jill to go home too, but he's doing it because he's worried about her, not because Peter Brock wants her out of the way so she can't rat on him, basically.
Yeah, or expose him about the room. Did you know about the room? And then we have Michael Bates, a face that looks very, very familiar.
Mm-hmm. And probably best known for his absolutely wonderful performance in Clockwork Orange.
In the center shot there?
Yeah, where he provides some comedy relief, but not the funniest movie ever made, but he's fantastic in it.
Oh, he plays Field Marshal Montgomery in Patton.
Okay,
he was in Frenzy.
That's right. I almost put that picture.
Oh, he's in Frenzy. Yes. Was he a
police?
He had to be a police. Yeah.
He looks like a police, a lawyer. I mean, he's just got that face.
Yeah.
He's good too. He's like the lead science guy, kind of is what it feels like. And actually, he was gone. I think at one point when they filmed, he couldn't be there. I think the last day, so he's not in whatever they shot that day. Other than that, he's in almost all the scenes. So they had to give his lines to somebody else.
Yeah. Now there is a character actor that I really love and stuff in the past couple decades. He plays a character called Cliff Dow, and I don't know who Cliff Dow is in the show.
I tried to find him. I'll be damned if I could recognize him.
But he probably aged into the way he looks now. We don't have a picture of him, but it's James Cosmo.
Yeah.
Who has done some great character work. For me, I guess recently it was Westworld. He was a very important supporting character. For the flashbacks or flash forwards or whatever they were. But he was in Chernobyl.
Yeah, I saw his picture there, and I didn't notice. I don't hear them calling anybody Cliff. And I looked at all those guys and went, "Let's see, can I imagine him looking really grizzly and with less hair?" And I just couldn't figure out who he was supposed to be.
Yeah, I wish we had a picture of him, but yeah. So I didn't realize it until I was looking through the cast for just right before the show, and I'm like, oh my god! So now I got to go back and see if I can figure out which one he is. Hopefully, he's not the one that puts the plastic teeth in. All right. Breaks.
It's the young blonde-haired guy.
Okay, that doesn't help.
Well, one of the guys had like I'm looking at a picture of him right now on his IMDb page.
Oh, I see it. It shows up. Yes. Okay.
He's got the sweater vest and the tie.
Oh my god, he looks like nothing like what he looks like now.
I know.
He's so grizzled when he aged. You know, many people probably know him from what is it? The Braveheart.
Yeah,
He's one of the guys one of the skirt guys. I say skirt. That's not a skirt.
But you know, it's interesting because most of the people that were in this, I don't know who puts together their pages, but have images from the Stone Tape on their IMDb page. Out of all of the stuff that they've done, there'll be at least one image of them from the Stone Tape. So that it was highly thought of, and I think they were proud of the work.
Yeah, of course, Game of Thrones. Gotta say Game of Thrones. I think he was part of the Night Watch. Old grizzled guy. He makes for a great old grizzled guy. He's been in a couple little minor horror films too. Anyway, we're not talking about him. He's fantastic. What do we want to say about this? Because it's I mean, what else can we say that we haven't already said?
Go seek it out. It isn't something that's been on the radar, but it's definitely worth watching. And how often do you hear Doc say, "Never heard of it," and I love it.
Yeah,
that's a good recommendation right there.
Yeah, I'm surprised in how many films that we come across that like, oh, I've never heard or seen this movie.
Yeah.
So if
I love it.
If early 70s, I want to call it racism. If that bothers you, stuff that was usual back then don't.
Locker room talk.
It's not as prevalent as it is in other films at that time. I mean, it's just like Here Bing, There Bing. It's like 3-4 times at most.
Yeah.
There's to me, some of it was just of the time, but the one with the plastic teeth was super cringeworthy. But that was also at the time, right?
Yeah, that was at Tiffany's. That's what they did.
And later, so
cringy.
We've talked about they've made movies on that concept.
Bill, is it cold where you are?
Oh, he's frozen.
Oh, geez, look at me, I'm frozen again.
Got a nice look. You kind of look like James Cosmo does right now. All right, well, there you go. That's our review of the film. Check it out. It's on various sources. I saw it on YouTube. You guys saw it on Shudder, and I would imagine most everybody listening has Shudder. Check it out. If you've never heard of it, I think you might be pleasantly surprised.
I was really surprised at how much I liked it. It was a really good movie.
Yeah. I got some thinking to do. I've got to reshuffle my.
Hey, I'm going to leave and come back because I'm sick of looking at that stupid expression on my face. I'll be right back.
There was one of the somewhat racial things. The bar helper talks about a colored boy who was part of the American soldiers there, which is, anyway, telling her that there were guppies in the wall of Tasker lands, or maybe it was duppies. And they never spell this out in the movie, but in the information we looked up, it says in Caribbean folklore, a duppy with a D is a ghost or spirit, typically malevolent.
Interesting.
So.
Interesting. It's a nice little haunted house film. Yeah. Really works.
I would have loved it.
There's Bill with a new look. You hold that for about 10 minutes, Bill.
I'll do that.
All right. Well, let's move on to our feedback. But before we do, let's make a quick announcement about Patreon, because we are covering on Patreon exclusive each and every episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker one by one. Woo. And the only way to see it is to be a patron member, and you can be a patron member for the lowest tier and still see it. And it's a lot of fun. Where are we at? We're a little past halfway as far as the ones we've released.
Yeah.
Yes.
So still got about 8 to 10 to go. Really, really fun revisiting that show in this way. It's quite the experience, and we hope you will check it out and share it with us. All right, let's get into feedback. Jeff, what do we have, sir?
We only have 3, and so this will be perfect. We'll start with episode 225, Moon of the Wolf, from Robert Baker. Doctor, could give us the news.
All right, 224, Moon of the Wolf with Robert Baker. Saw this one when I got it as one of those old 10 movies for $10 sets that the video stores used to sell. Yes, I remember those. Those were always fun. You got some really bad stuff along with some really good stuff that you had never heard of. Like this movie. I really like this one, and I'd never heard of it before. There's just something about 70s made-for-TV movies I just love. Maybe it's the fact that we don't have them anymore in this age, where we get everything dumped on streaming services eventually. This one was a good one to review, so others might try it out. I think it's worth seeing for sure.
Yes. And I got a somebody actually put a Blu-ray out of it. I think it's Vinegar Syndrome.
Sounds about right.
Next up, episode 225 from Gregory Crosby. Chad.
Gregory says, still bummed that I couldn't join the crew for this one. I saw this a few years ago at the Quad Cinema in one of the worst 35 millimeter prints.
Oh, no.
So pink and washed out that it resembled very poor stage blood. Nevertheless, I recall enjoying its sexiness and brutality, but I agree it's not at the top of the sapphic vampire subgenre of the 1970s, but it's certainly not at the bottom either. Time for a rewatch.
See. Very good.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it, Gregory. Gregory, we were short Chad for that episode. No, who were we short that episode? We were short somebody.
Was it Daphne?
No, this was a 70s. Anyway, so I had asked Gregory to join us because he had brought it up when we did Daughters of Darkness. All right, episode 226, I Monster, from Perfect Mask. Bill.
That's Perfect Mask 1.
Mm-hmm.
The first of all, number 1 of all the Perfect Masks. Thanks for this choice. I've been wanting to revisit this movie for a while, as I wasn't overly impressed when I first watched it a few years back. However, I enjoyed it this time around, especially Lee's performance. Cushing is always great, but a little underused, I thought. I've also got my eye on that Blu-ray. Hopefully it's a better print than the stream version. Keep up the good work. Love the show. Thank you, sir.
Yay, thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
man.
Blu-ray.
Like Perfect Mask could be a man or a woman, but thank you.
The Blu-ray is a very fine image. And I think at the time that we recorded it, I said I ordered it. And it was supposed to come the day before the podcast, but then it got damaged in shipment. So I went ahead and reordered it, and I got it, and it's good.
Yay!
And it was good.
Yeah.
That's it for today. So thanks everybody. We love our comments. So please make comments on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel for the episodes, or you can send emails to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com, or you can make comments on the Facebook page, Gruesome Magazine's H&R and DOH Facebook page. Facebook
That works.
podcast, Facebook group.
Yeah.
Look those things up. Anyway, we love comments. We love hearing about your experiences watching the movie, or your thoughts on the movie, or added insights you might have, etc., etc., etc.
Excellent. And we appreciate the trio of comments we have. It's excellent.
Yes.
Also, yeah, definitely suggestions. I think Jeff mentioned that. I'd love to, this one was, again, one of the films that gets suggested, and we get suggestions all the time, but we love suggestions that steers us toward films that we may not be aware of, or on our radar at the time that we're choosing films. So
We even pick movies like Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly.
No, stop it. All right. Now, so since we picked on Chad gets the next pick. That's our next episode. Chad, what film have you chosen for us?
1974, The House of Seven Corpses.
The House of Seven Corpses.
It's got a little ways to go to catch up with Rob Zombie, but
That's true.
Yeah.
I got to start somewhere.
Seven's the magic number there. Nice. This one's an American cast. John Ireland, who is a well-known Western star. We did something with him not too long ago that we talked about him. I don't recall. I think it was something on Classic Era. And Faith Demergue, who was in This Island Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And John Carradine.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a rare film that has John Carradine in it. So.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either.
Who's putting this out? Paul Harrison. And
yeah, I've seen this. It's going to be fun. It's going to be
Television Corporation of America. Does that mean it's a TV movie?
No, I don't think so.
No, it's a kind of meta because they're filming in the house, so they're filming a film. So there's a little bit of what they're filming.
Oh, gotcha.
That kind of throws you off at first, and then you get into what's happening in the house that they're
filming on location where 7 murders were committed.
Yep. Carradine owns the house or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's been a while since I've probably watched it 10, 20 years ago. So it's going to be a fun rewatch. Good choice, Chad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. That's our episode. As we suggested, love to hear some feedback. And thank you for sticking with us. Check out the Patreon for our coverage of Call Jack the Night Stalker. Of course, hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend buttons. Each click helps us find more horror fans just like you. And with that, Jeff, Chad, Bill, thank you for joining me. Been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And with that, let's say good night.
Good night,
Night, everybody.
everybody.
Gruesome Magazine.